Story 1. No, I do not want to have sex with you. Women have many rejection speeches rehearsed, but they never learned how to handle being rejected themselves. Contrary to popular belief, men do not always want sex from you. Most of the time, I am happy with just good food, a good drink, and good company. Story 2. Men don't always want sex. Women can be predators. The same sympathy should be given to men so they feel comfortable enough to open up about their trauma. Speaking from personal experience here. Story 3. Women can be abusive and toxic as well, and they shouldn't be able to get away with just blaming it on a mental illness, even if they do have one. Story 4. Many women understand this, but some women do not. Not all men are comfortable or welcoming of physical affection from any given woman, and if you touch me after I tell you to stop, that is assault. Story 5. Men are not going to give you commitment if you do not show any reason beyond looking pretty. A sexy visual appearance is obviously desirable, but that alone does not make up for a lack of good values to back you up. Story 6. Toxic masculinity isn't just spread by men. Some of the most strict and harsh enforcers of what is manly have been women. We don't show emotion because of how women have acted when we do. We don't open up because of how women have treated us when we do. I know it's not all women, but it's hard to trust again when it feels like it's most women. Story 7. From a sociological perspective, the number of men that fantasize about being dominated is quite high, much higher than suggested by conventional evolutionary biological theories that portray men as one-dimensional hunter-gatherer providers. The jokes related to this are very common. There is much more richness and variety in men's thoughts than just food, sex, cars. Even in our own dealings with women, there is a lot more to life than only those things. A lot of us just bury the parts of ourselves that we're not supposed to have. But along with burying the parts of ourselves that aren't considered strong enough, we also bury the parts of ourselves that know we love you and care about you because it's all intertwined. You can't get rid of either the convenient or inconvenient parts of vulnerability because they go together. As a result, those emotions just surface later as they boil over. In the end, such a dynamic is harmful for everyone. The people we care about are wronged, and we're left feeling ashamed for both being weak enough to feel ashamed and cruel enough to delay it. Just as feelings of guilt arise from not being emotional and vulnerable when you should be, we feel guilty about being emotional and vulnerable when we shouldn't be. Story 8. That the so-called situationships are mostly pitiful. In most cases, they are temporary distractions for people who are afraid of any form of commitment and cannot handle being with just one person. In truth, it goes both ways. Story 9. You are responsible for actually fixing your mental health issues, not just using them as excuses for your terrible and often uncontrollable behavior. Changing your hair color won't change your life choices. I'm sorry that it feels like it's the only thing about your body you have direct control over, but that's your issue and you need to fix it. Men can't fix everything. Sometimes a person has to fix themselves. I have more, but these are the big three for me. Story 10. Bending our ear about being a strong, independent woman and wanting gender equality, while still wanting to hold on to the perks of being a traditional woman whenever it suits you makes you look like a total hypocrite. Story 11. Men aren't bad at reading hints. Women are bad at communicating. One woman's hint is another's just being friendly. So don't fault men when you expect them to be mind readers. Story 12. A quiet, calm, laid-back, and non-confrontational man is not a weak man, unmanly, or incapable. These men are generally capable of inflicting lasting hurt on people, hurt that you do not want to hear, and when they do unload, it will be to drive home the point regardless of most consequences. Do not mistake silence for weakness. Story 13. Many husbands and boyfriends would break up with some of you if they knew how much detail of his personal life you share with your girlfriends, sisters, or mothers. Story 14. Women are excellent with other women's emotions, but normally do not understand men's emotions at all. Men being emotional is not the same as women, and we are probably not going to magically change to accommodate that. Thus, the cycle of men opening up, then being shunned and closing back down, will pretty much carry on until we are extinct. Story 15. That the size of your breasts is not that important to a man. It is the overall package that is attractive to a man. Breast size takes a backseat to good chemistry. Story 16. Hormones aren't an excuse to treat people poorly. You can be hormonal and have your feelings and not be mean to people around you. The number of women who will say or do cruel things while their hormones are elevated, only to later dismiss it as, "I'm not at fault, hormones," is pathetic and shows zero accountability for their actions. It's something they would never allow a man to get away with if the roles were reversed. If testosterone isn't an excuse for men's bad behavior, hormonal changes aren't an excuse for women's. Story 17. As a friend of a short man, I have to say the double standards are real. Call a man short, and everyone laughs, but if that short man calls a woman fat, heaven forbid. Story 18. You don't want a sensitive man. You want a strong pillar of a man who can be sensitive to your needs. A sensitive man will, for most, be a letdown with regards to you feeling safe and to him appearing reliable as an anchor point for you. Story 19. Women do not have a monopoly on gendered issues. Women are not morally superior to men. Men are not morally superior to women. Both genders see each other as more privileged. Story 20. Whether you are living under the patriarchy or a matriarchy, both come with trade-offs that will make you miserable in unfathomable or unique ways. At the end of the day, you are who you are, and you are the only one in charge of your happiness. If all of your material, political, and social needs are being met and you're still depressed, that is on you, not men. Story 21. There exists sexism towards women. Men want to be loved and pampered too, sometimes. We are not perfect and we want it to be okay to have bad days. We are quietly suffering just to avoid fights that you have blown out of proportion in context. We want communication too. Our brains are wired to logically solve problems. But when trying to work on an issue becomes a fight, when we are used and treated poorly, speaking out suddenly makes us the bad person and the villain. That is unfair. Story 22. There are many positive discrimination programs these days that treat women like children, reinforcing the gender divide. Society does not coddle men in the same way it often does with women, and that coddling should not be mistaken for empowerment. Additionally, it is hypocritical for a woman to define herself as a feminist while still demanding traditional gender roles from a man, such as wanting them to lead in a relationship, be dominant in bed, support financially, and have masculine traits like muscles and height. Story 23. Women tend to be as abusive as men nowadays, even more. No, you cannot change the meaning of words to adapt to how you feel. That's why we have dictionaries. If a man does it, dump him. The game rules, also known as law, must be equal for everyone. If your country passes a bill that benefits someone due to gender in order to bring justice, you do not live in a fair country, and defending it is evil. That goes for everyone. No, you do not have the right to hit us just because you are weak. This is disrespectful. If we open ourselves with you, showing our vulnerabilities, and that will make you lose your attraction for us, become a person who can be supportive and do not lose it. That goes for everyone too. Story 24. I'm not going to say all women, but a subset of women need to understand that just because they're attractive doesn't mean they can touch men however they want. This happened to me quite a few times. Story 25. Posting sexual content, whether it be OnlyFans, bikini photos on Instagram, and so on, makes you lose respect and only be seen in a negative light. Don't be surprised and blame a lack of available men for the reason you can't get a good, meaningful relationship when you have been perceived in such a way. Even after you decide to show less of your body, people will still remember it and see you as someone not worthy of being in a meaningful relationship. That's why I feel sorry for young women who turn to OnlyFans at the first opportunity. The chances for massive regret in only a few years are very high. Story 26. No means no. Women say it all the time when they want us to respect their boundaries, which is completely normal and completely fine. But please respect ours as well. Story 27. As a guy, I have to allow for the strong possibility that I'm highly prejudiced. But I suspect that much of the misogyny that women accuse us of so often is actually women projecting their misandry onto men. Studies demonstrate a stronger in-group bias on the part of women in a general way. How does that not include a significant level of animosity toward the people who form the outgroup for them? Story 28. A good blowjob requires as much effort as eating pussy properly. Just putting it in your mouth and licking lightly is not going to make me orgasm. It is not something 99% of people will be naturally good at with no practice or research. Story 29. It is not cute or funny to not know or care about keeping your car running well or fixing things around the house. It is actually really embarrassing. Also, wedding rings and weddings are largely silly and a massive waste of money just because you want to show off to friends. Story 30. Women do not know how to treat men as equals. What I mean is men are told since they are children to be generous, kind, and chivalrous to women. Yet women are not taught how to act towards men. At least based on talks with female friends of mine, various online forums I browse, podcasts I listen to, and so on. There are exceptions, obviously, on both sides. Story 31. You're not a 10, you're probably average, and that's okay because most men don't want a 10 and most men are average. But you need to be realistic and lower your standards. You can't demand that a man be good-looking, make $100,000 a year, be 6 feet 5 inches tall, be vulnerable but also masculine and tough, go to all your family events, and spend every night with you but also be a CEO or lawyer. First of all, you're dreaming. The perfect man doesn't exist. And second, what do you bring to the table that makes you feel you deserve that? It's okay to settle. It's not settling if it's what you deserve. That's just called life, and there's more to a relationship than the superficial. If you find a guy you're attracted to who makes $50,000 a year, he's 5 feet 8 inches tall, he's in pretty good shape, he makes you laugh, you have fun together, he treats you well, and he works hard, then lock him down. Don't say, yeah, but he doesn't have XYZ. You aren't going to find a perfect man, and you're not perfect. Be grateful for what you have or die alone. Your choice. Story 32. You are not fat. Yes, I do find you attractive. No, I do not like anorexic models. No, I do not like fake body parts. Yes, I really do like going down on you. Yes, I do find the smell enticing. Now accept it and let's go get dinner, watch a movie, and get on with enjoying that beautiful body. Story 33. It is okay to advise women not to get drunk by themselves and to be mindful of what they wear depending on where they are going and who they are going with. It constantly jumps to victim blaming if they are violated, but it is really just telling them to be street smart. If they get violated in any way, it is absolutely wrong and not okay. But if they ignored all the warning signs or actively ignored the things that made them a target because it is their right, I have to shake my head. I grew up in the ghetto, and if you wore certain gang colors, you were inviting trouble. Was it fair? No. But I am not going to risk getting randomly jumped or shot to prove a point. Another example is black parents having to teach their children how to navigate interacting with police at an early age. It is unfair, but that is the way life is. Those skills and bringing about that awareness literally save lives. My parents were not attacking me or victim blaming me, so I do not know why it is viewed that way when analogous advice is given to women. Story 34. Apparently saying, I like you and I would love to go to the next step. At least in my experience, it's like, hey, I want to commit to you. And their mind goes like, this guy wants to commit to me. There must be something wrong with him. Story 35. Most of the time in 2023, when a woman says men and women aren't equal, we cannot rest until they're equal. What she means is that men grow taller and stronger than women, and that men do not have to carry a baby for 9 months to become a parent, while women have to carry the baby themselves to become a parent. That's never going to change. Equal does not mean the same. Men and women are allies, not enemies. Story 36. Having a career is not special. The fact you're always tired and complaining doesn't mean my job is easier. Most men just don't complain to people. That's why we're all complaining on the internet 24/7. Story 37. Lashing out with anger, such as raising your voice or making snide comments. Needing comfort because you overthought something, and getting jealous over a guy's friends or family are examples of emotional immaturity. If you cannot contain your emotions so they do not affect others in the correct scenarios, then you have a low emotional intelligence. Edit. This comment hasn't even been up an hour, and already some women are upset and lashing out at me because they can't keep a handle on their emotions. Story 38. Women can, in fact, be too needy. Just like how men love to be pampered, so do women. But I feel like women ask for it a lot more than men. I say this because sometimes I feel like I am always wanting to be kissed and hugged when he just wants to relax and enjoy just being next to me reading his book or Reddit. Story 39. That men are not slightly intimidated by strong, independent women. Bored, disinterested, blasé, indifferent, and unimpressed? Sure, but not intimidated.